Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Aki, hello. We were just like jamming offline to our awesome theme tune.
Yes, I'm back.
You're back.
And I'm better than ever. This is Set Phasers, the highly illogical Star Trek podcast. That work? Shoehorned it in there.
We were just talking before about how we should at some point potentially sing our intro for one very special episode.
One very, very special episode. Maybe the last one we ever do.
Maybe. Let that day not come.
Yeah, indeed. If only to hold off us singing the theme song live. It is Stardate 10906.4. And today we are discussing episode 15, the season finale of season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. Will you take my hand?
Can you believe we're there already?
No. And that's why we had to do the special episode on a Sunday.
Indeed.
To get through we have the whole season 2 to get through, and then October 15th, season 3, and it's been hundreds of years, there's centuries in the future, and nobody knows what's going to happen, and there's trills maybe. It's going to be bonkers. Anyway, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's not. So, Aki, should we hit our rundown? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's time to run it down. It's time to run it down. Can you run it down for me? What just happened? Can you run it down for me? Steph, your 90s video dance moves are so on point now. You've really improved.
Thank you. I've been watching Sister Sister.
Oh, that's right. You have been watching Sister Sister.
That really long intro where there's this awkward stuff and big baggy jeans.
Who knew that there was overlap? But you're pulling it off.
Thank you.
That was very well done. I have a lot to think about. Okay, so season 1 finale. Will you take my hand? As you may recall, I had to do this to wrap this up. So last time on Star Trek Discovery, we came back from the Mirror Universe, and we brought evil Emperor Georgiou. And then Starfleet, it was 9 months in the future than when Disco left. And so Starfleet was losing the war to the Klingons, and Discovery had to find, Captain Cornwell showed up, and Sarek is there, and they're really behind. And so Starbase 1 was not destroyed, but taken over, but maybe 80,000 Starfleet people were killed. So Starfleet's on its heels, desperate. They go to Georgiou, evil Georgiou, and ask her how she conquered the Klingons in her universe, and she basically tells them, but then she makes a deal with the higher-ups for her freedom. She says she has a plan that can guarantee them victory, and so she's installed as Captain Georgiou of the Discovery to lead this new mission to the Klingon homeworld of Qo'Onos.
Sorry, I went too early.
No, that was well done. It was perfectly timed. It's like we're professionals. We're getting good at this. Okay. We begin with the Klingon fleet headed towards Earth, and they're saying the target's locked. They're the outer edges of the system, and it zooms in, it's Earth, and then a satellite flies past Earth, and then we're looking at a green planet, which we learn is Qo'Onos. And so Georgiou is at the helm. Disco is headed to Qo'Onos. The plan, as far as we know, is to find one of these hollowed out volcanic chimneys, to use the spore drive to jump into the volcanic chimney, and then to use a drone to make a tactical map of the entire planet's surface and their defenses, and then engage in an all-out assault of Qo'Onos to draw the Klingons back to the homeworld and be able to negotiate them from a place of balance. So Georgiou's at the helm. She's kind of being super Terran while being Georgiou, and it's embarrassing Saru and Michael. And eventually Michael almost tries to like out her by being like, hey, where are you from again? What's that little town that you went to? Like all those beaches that we, and so Georgie says, let's take a walk. And they go out into the hall, and George is like, if you ever try to out me, I'll kill you. Well, she says, I'll throw you in the brig. But it seems like a deep threat. And they're discussing sort of like, Michael's like, what's the real plan? There's this whole feeling that like Georgiou obviously is hiding. So she's the emperor. She's very adept at these machiavellian sort of hidden moves. So what is the real plan? And Georgiou says, like, you're either with me or against me. And she says, I'm going to guarantee you victory. But she still doesn't quite tell you what the plan is. But she and Michael go to visit Laurel in the brig. And they say, we need to know which of these volcanic chimneys is the best one to land in for the best tactical advantage. And Laurel's like, I'm not going to tell you. The Klingons are winning the war. And then Michael's like, the Klingons are not winning. They're fractured and they're using humans as fodder. And they're not really united. And Takuma's vision is being destroyed. And Laurel's like, I don't care. And then George is like, oh, I'm going to ask you for real. And then she lowers the force field and she beats the living crap out of Laurel. And then Laurel just starts laughing. And she's like, you've already lost. So that doesn't work. And then Michael's like, no, enough. Because, Starfleet, we don't necessarily love torturing prisoners. She says there's another way. And so Michael and Evil Georgiou, the new buddy cop team, they go to visit Ash Tyler, Michael's former lover and former Manchurian Klingon candidate who had his bones broken or something. And the psyche installed in the human, or the human psyche was installed in the...
The science is a bit fudgy.
The science is so confusing. I hit my microphone. That's how weird it is. So anyway, they go to see him. He's like, they're talking about him. I, for a second, forgot that they were actually in the room. I thought maybe they were like looking at a holodeck, because he's like just tying a knot the whole time. And they're like, George is like, he's of no use to the Federation. He's neither human. He's neither Klingon. Does he know things? Is it worth it? Who cares? And he's just like, this is a bowline knot. Doesn't slip, doesn't stick. It's solid. And it reminds me of being a human. It's one of my first memories. So anyway, he's working on his human memories. But he agrees that since he can access all of Vok's memories, that he can sort of be their intelligence liaison. He can be their liaison to figure out which of these chimneys they can get the discovery into. And so he goes in and they show him the 3D map. And he says, well, some of these have been destroyed or flooded, so they don't work. We can land the discovery here, but it's not connected to the tactical structures of the planet. So we need to get over to this other one, which we can get to on foot if we go through the seedy district of like Qo'Onos City. And we have to go to this, the Shrine of Molor, because they used to throw human bodies in there. But that chimney is the one they need to get to. And so George is like, great, Tyler, I want you on this mission. Obviously, she wants Michael. And she says, and we need one more person on this very delicate and sensitive mission. We're going undercover as weird human smugglers. And she brings in Tilly. And Tilly, up to this moment, does not know that this is Evil Georgiou. So she comes in and she's being a total Tilly. And she's like, oh, it's so great to meet you. I've heard so much about you. I'm so excited. And then Georgiou gets real weird. And she's like, oh, the people we've killed and the Kelpians we've eaten or whatever. And then Tilly's like, oh, no, this is not Georgiou. That was a very good comedic moment.
Yep. That was definitely a Tilly moment in there. Just the way that she handled that.
Super Tilly moment. Yeah. The way that she also kind of was like, what is going on here? So that's the team. And they're going to be the ones that go actually on world and make the walk from the one volcanic place to the other one to drop the drone. And so they all get dressed in super cool black clothing, which I thought was cool. And they do like a slow motion walk. Disco jumps to the volcano. And they are transported off the ship into what I describe as the Qo'Onos Bazaar Skid Row, the den of thieves from Star Wars.
And they had green people as well. Like they sort of had green sex workers.
Yeah,
which is
green
very
sex
Star
workers
Wars.
and so Star Warsy. Yeah, because they're not naked. They're wearing like chain bikinis and thongs and stuff. So very, very Star Warsy. So there's weird street meets, which is funny for me. So they go to meet, I don't remember what kind of alien they go to meet, but the alien's like, get out of here, Starfleet, you suck. And then Georgiou's like, get out of here. And then she like opens a bag and they pull out some badass phasers. And she's like, tell her what we've got. And Tilly now all badass with her hair pulled back and straight. And she's all like, she does a pretty great job of being like a smuggler. She's like, this is this kind of gun. It's got these and it's undetectable, blah, 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 blah. Just reround and shoot 20 times and bing, blah, blah, bing. Oh yeah, she also puts a gun in that lady's face and she's like, if you harm my boss, I'll shoot your nose off. And it was great.
It was like Killy came out, you know.
Killy came out. Well, she had been practicing Killy in the mirror universe. Fortunately, we are back in the Prime universe. So then Tilly says like, oh man, all this like this arms smuggling is making me hungry. Let's go get something to eat. Well, she and Michael go to get some sort of street meat that they have no idea what it is, but she basically is giving Michael the same question, like, what does Giorgio have planned? And Michael doesn't know, but they're like, let's keep an eye on things. And then Tilly starts eating the meat and she's like, I don't know. She thinks it's delicious. And then Tyler tells her that it's space whale, Gormagan, and she spits it out. Because remember, we had that sweet, sweet Gormagan that mud hidden. Okay, so then they go into basically like a strip club brothel area in Qo'Onos, I guess. And
a den of what is it called? A den of iniquities or something?
It is a den of iniquity. Oh, you mean like what does Obi-Wan call? Are we talking Star Wars now?
No, I wasn't. I was just, I thought that was what that sort of den might be called.
You could certainly call it a den of iniquity. You could call it a house of ill repute.
House of sin.
There are many, a house of sin. There are many fantastic euphemisms for places where people pay other people to have sex with them and drink and do other illicit substances. All these things will happen inside this place. So Philippa immediately sits down in a chair. She's like, hey, well, let's split up. I'm going to take these two dancers back to a private room. She tells Tilly to just sit there holding the case. And Tyler and Michael go off they're all just trying to find information on where exactly this Morlock shrine is, because that's where they need to get. So Giorgio goes to the back room for some, what I wrote down as sexy time with two green people. And Michael and Tyler wind up in a sort of gambling.
I love how awkward you get when it's some sort of sexy time.
What are you talking about? We're moving on. Michael and Tyler go to a gambling area. And Tyler's like, oh, yeah, folks' memories make me sort of remember how to play this game. And I think I'm pretty good at it. So he goes like full on Vogue and he's like talking Klingon. He's hitting Klingons and stuff. He's doing like you remember that episode where Riker goes, he's on like the exchange thing and he goes to the Klingon ship and he like eats the grok and he like punches people and then falls in love with the Klingon woman, of course. That's what I sort of picture when Tyler like is like,
did he? I don't remember the Klingon woman.
Yeah, the two women were into him at breakfast. Or at whatever, the meal, and then... I
thought he was scared of them.
No, excuse me, Riker. Riker was like...
I forgot this.
Man, we should probably watch that episode. Okay, yeah. You know, we're supposed to watch an episode with our patrons. We should maybe put that on the list. Okay. Where was I? So Michael is like kind of freaked out because he's like getting all Klingon-y, and so she runs away to a tattoo parlor. And she's in the tattoo parlor, and then Tyler comes back to see her, and he's like, they don't have any information. Tilly, meanwhile, is alone, and she gets invited over by some old green man to sit in a chair and smoke some unknown substance with him. She tries to not, and he says, get out. And then she says, okay, I'll smoke. And then she has one inhale, and she completely passes out. In the meantime, Michael tells Tyler about how her parents were killed brutally before her ears, essentially, by Klingon raiders when they were on the Daktari Alpha outpost to see a star go supernova, and that's why she has this sort of abiding hatred that she's working through for the Klingon race. And they're sort of discussing all that, and then Tyler sees someone do a Molor ritual at a table, so he runs over there to get some information from them. At the same time, we see Giorgio now in the in a state of
In
post-coital
what?
recumbency with her two partners. And they're like, oh, you've taught us so much. We shouldn't even charge you, but we have to charge you. And she's like, maybe you could teach me something. And they go, oh, and then she attacks them. She like puts one in a leg lock and then pulls a phaser on the other one. She's like, tell me where the Molar Temple is. So she's effective at what she's effective at. Pretty much everything. At that point, Tilly wakes up and she sees that the drug guy is like trying to break into her case that holds the drone. And she's like, and she says, hey, what were we smoking? And he says it was volcanic, like ash or dust. And she says the volcanoes are dead. And he's like, oh, they're not dead. They definitely are still alive. She goes, say what? And then she, for some reason, sort of just like intuitively opens up the case and realizes it's not a drone at all. It is a, quote, hydro bomb. When she discovers that it is a hydro bomb, she immediately calls Michael and Tyler, and she's like, hey, this is not a drone, it's a hydro bomb. I think the plan is to put this bomb in the volcanoes, and that will cause like a catastrophic extinction level event on the planet of Qo'Onos, amounting essentially to genocide. And as she's saying that, Giorgio comes up from behind her, hits her on the head, takes the case, knocks her out.
Is hydro bomb supposed to be the same as hydrogen bomb?
I assume it's meant to be sort of like hydrogen bomb in that maybe it involves hydrogen, but a hydrogen bomb wouldn't be a planet destructor. So I guess it's like hydrogen plus photon technology. I don't know. It's like a big, 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 big bomb.
Big boom.
It's a big, big bada boom. So Tyler and Michael go to Tilly and they're sort of discussing, and then they get in contact with Disco and they're trying to stop Giorgio from dropping off the drone / bomb. But even though Disco can see where she is, they can see where the drone is. There's too much shielding on the planet, which is why they had to enact this crazy plan in the first place. And so they're unable to forcibly transport Giorgio out, and they're unable to control the bomb because it's like keyed to Giorgio's biosignature or whatever. So Michael says like, all right, fine, I want to talk to the Admiral. So she and the crew go back up to the ship. Or no, not up to the ship, down to the ship, because it'll be in the volcanic bubble at this point, right? Underneath the surface. So they go back to Disco and they make a call to Cornwall, and they show the shit.
You did it a few times earlier. I let it go. It's quite funny.
Admiral Katrina Cornwell. They make a call to Cornwell. And, I don't know why this name's so hard for me. They make a call to Cornwell and they're like, is this your plan? You wanted to commit genocide? And Cornwell sort of hems and haws and is like, we're in a desperate place and this is what we don't have the luxury of principles. And Michael says, that's all we have, Admiral. Yeah. And she goes like, listen, I made a mistake a year ago when I started this war. I thought that I had to do this thing in order to save us. I thought desperation was the answer, and I made a mistake. And then she says, do we need to have a mutiny today to prove who we are? And I said it in a more controversial, like confrontational way than she did, but that's basically how she said it. And then there's like a stare down, and then the bridge crew joins Michael, and then
stand up and have this whole moment.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, I am Starfleet, I am Spartacus, etc., etc. And the Admiral says, okay, what did you have in mind? And then a plan is launched that we don't know anything about. Next thing we see, Giorgio being approached by Michael as she's in the cave, because she has dropped the bomb and is like tracking it on her handheld doohickey. And Michael says, listen, you can keep your freedom, but give me the detonator and get out of here. We're not following this plan. And Giorgio's like, oh, you talked them out of it. Of course you did. She says, did it ever occur to you that I was doing it for you so you didn't have to get your hands dirty, but so you could survive? And Michael's like, no, we don't want to survive this way. It's not worth it to survive like Starfleet this way. And then Giorgio, after being like, you're nothing, she goes, well, you could join me. They'll be at our mercy. She says she's not like Michael's Philippa, but there's obviously a bond between them that they cannot deny. And that is even more clear when Michael says, I will not join you. And then Giorgio pulls a phaser on Michael and she's like, oh yeah, well, you're not going to get this bomb from me. And Michael's like, you should take your freedom or you're going to have to kill me. And even if you escape, my ship will destroy you. So you can get out of here. All you have to do is watch me die again. And then she puts the gun right in her chest. And then Giorgio relents because she's like into Michael. She does like her and they like each other and it's sweet, even though We sort of know that this evil Giorgio has killed millions, billions, trillions of people.
Billions.
Billions and billions of people. So Georgia's like, fine, whatever. I'll just get out of here. I don't care anyway. You guys can make your own mess or whatever. And she's like, do you want the detonator key to your biosignature? And she goes, not mine. Bring her in. And they bring in Laurel back in her white suit with the blood fangs coming out of it. And she's like, what is this? And they're like, oh, we were going to blow up your whole planet. We were going to commit suicide and kill every single Klingon in the galaxy that we could get our hands on, except for the ones that were able to escape. And she's like, well, you brought me here just to gloat. And Michael's like, no, we brought you here for an alternative. So they figured out this is truly a Vulcan hello. And to bring it back to episode 1. So they set the detonator to Laurel's biosignature, and they say, you can unify the 24 Klingon houses if they understand power and force, and you have the ability to do it. Of course, Laurel is used to being in the shadows. You remember that the other sexy times moment between Laurel and Voq when she was like, oh, I want to be behind you and at your side and all that stuff and all this, stuff they talked about. And then, Tyler speaks up and he says, like, hey, Voq always thought that you had the ability to lead. It is time for you to leave the shadows. And so it is agreed that Laurel will use this bomb to, the Klingons have the option to unite or die. Before everything, Giorgio splits, but before she leaves, Michael tells her, be good. And Giorgio's like, oh, are you going to chase me down? And Michael's like, just making sure I don't have to. And she smiles and nods. So that could mean anything. Very mercurial way to respond to that. Tyler and Michael then have a moment together when Tyler's like, hey, what Giorgio said was right. I'm not really good for Starfleet. I think I'm going to go with Laurel and be like a kind of a liaison between Starfleet and the Klingons and maybe help, establish this balance. But they have some feelings that they share with each other. And he thanks her for keeping him alive and breaking the weird training. And she's like, I see you in there. It's only you. It's kind of like a trust thing. And then they kiss goodbye and it's very sweet. And then when he leaves, she's holding her, she's holding his bowline knot. It doesn't slip. It doesn't stick or whatever he said. And they transport to Laurel's Mokai ship and Burnham transfers back to Disco. And then Laurel uses her abilities of persuasion and also that hydro bomb to convince the 24 Klingon houses that are initially nonplussed about her, or are they plussed? I never remember which is which of the plussed and nonplussed, but they're like, ha ha ha, you can't control us. And she's like, oh yeah, I'll blow us all up. And so they fall in line. The war is over. Michael and the Disco crew return home to Starfleet headquarters in Paris, and they're on Earth. And Michael is approached by Amanda, her mother, well, Sarek's wife, and Sarek is her father, so Amanda's her mother, but they're not her biological parents, put it that way. And she says, you told me to remember my humanity, and I didn't understand that until now, and I just want to thank you for telling me that when I was young. And they share a tearful moment, and then Sarek comes over, and they have their version of a tearful moment among Vulcans, where he says, I made some mistakes and I was part of an unprincipled attack. And then Michael says, hey, you were desperate. He goes, still, I have a lot to thank you for. I am as grateful to you as the Starfleet should be as well. I will go with your ship to the next place that you're going to get your new captain from Vulcan. And she's like, it would be great to have that. And then he smiles at her, and that was sweet. I liked it. The penultimate scene is Michael addressing the Federation Council. She gives a stirring speech that began as a voiceover at the beginning of the episode and left us hanging because it did not answer a question as she finishes it. And also people are awarded, Saru is the first Kelpian to get the Medal of Honor. I assume the whole crew gets the Medal of Honor, but Saru's the first Kelpian.
Yeah,
and
they all
Stamets
had something on them.
Culber, in posthumously, Culber gets the award, and Tilly gets accepted into the Starfleet Command Training Program. Huzzah, huzzah, huzzah. And then there is an ovation, not standing, but there is an ovation for Michael and the whole crew, and it's sweet, and the speech is stirring, and I will say it later. Anyway, they get back on the Disco. They're talking all this jibba jabba. They're going to have to warp to Vulcan because Starfleet's kind of like, maybe we should find like a non-human, non-living, sentient way to control the spore drive that doesn't involve ripping someone's mind in half. So they're going to warp to Vulcan to get the new captain. And on their way to Vulcan, they receive a priority 1 distress call. And so they drop out of warp because it's kind of choppy. And then even then they don't really hear what it's supposed to be. But then they do discover that it is coming from Captain Pike on the Enterprise, the NCC 1701. And the outro credits are the original Star Trek theme music. And that,
yes,
my friends, is episode 15, season finale of season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. And we throw it up. Did I do it?
You did.
You know, it's very cathartic, but they don't go very far often. Like, they're right here at my feet now. So that was a crazy episode. I threw them before getting into stats. There's only one black alert, and there's no set phasers, and there's 2 to transports. So
good job on the stats. Sky says you're a little quiet, by the way.
I'm sorry. Well, I get quiet when Steph makes me talk about sexy times. So I just start running away from the microphone. I apologize. But now I hope, coming in loud and clear.
Sky will let us know. Okay.
Well, should we go to quotable moments?
We should. Quotable moments.
It really did it for me. Do you have any in particular that you would like to mention, or should I read my super long one?
I did have one, actually.
Do yours. Yes, great.
Which one was it? It was, the only way to defeat fear is to tell it no. No, we will not take shortcuts on the path to righteousness. No, we will not break the rules that protect us from our basest instincts. No, we will not allow desperation to destroy moral authority.
Hey, that's pretty good. That's basically my quote. I just did the first part of it, the story. So that's great. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Let me lean in here. On the eve of battle, on a cold and windless night, an old general turned to a young soldier. "Tomorrow," said the master, "you will know fear." The young soldier, who had not yet experienced the agony of war, looked at the general with quizzical eyes. "How will I know fear if I do not know what it looks like?" The general replied, "You will know fear because it speaks very fast and it speaks very loud. If that is how fear acts, recognizing it is easy." But as the young soldier considered the general's advice, she asked the question facing us now. "Once I know fear, how do I defeat it?" The general's answer, "The only way to defeat fear is to tell it no," leading into the part that Steph read. And I also like the little part at the end, because the things you said no about: the path to righteousness, we will not break rules that protect us from basic instincts. We will not let desperation destroy moral authority. And then she says, "I am guilty of all these things." Some say that in life there are no second chances. Experience tells me that this is true, but we can look only forward. We have to be torchbearers, casting the light so we may see the path to lasting peace. Booyah.
I quite like the torchbearer reference, obviously given with the Klingons.
As did I, yes. Also, I thought this was a wonderful way to sum it out, because really the conflict that begins, I mean, I maybe have watched this too many times, but I felt the old master was the original Philippa Georgiou. And the young soldier is Michael Burnham in the first episode. And Georgiou is saying, it's scary because the Klingon torch ship is here, and Michael was scared, but she wanted to react in this way that was anti-Starfleet. And Georgiou was telling her, no, this is not what Starfleet does. And that's what led Michael to her terrible mistake. And that's why she says, "I've made all these mistakes." Anyway, not to get into a whole Kapla corner thing, but
why not?
Kapla! Okay, listen. People tell me that this series is too dark. It's too serious. Starfleet's about happiness and hope and whatever. Now you listen to me, chumps. You pataks. The whole thing is that it just takes longer for this. These are more trenchant, more complex issues, not unlike what Gene Roddenberry originally visioned. And in the end, it is about upholding the principles of Starfleet. It is about being true to core values, and about finding a way that is not somehow compromising the ideals of peace and freedom and discovery and exploration and camaraderie. But we don't get that at the end of every episode. We get it sort of at the end of every arc, end of every season. And then the characters go through complex emotions and make bad choices, but then eventually come around to the right decision. And so I would argue, if you think the show is too dark and that it goes against all the notions of Starfleet, that it is you, my friend, who, unlike Tilly advises us in the penultimate episode, are unwilling to face the darkness within yourself and to tell it that fear no. And here endeth Michael Plot Corner. I wish I had papers to throw. Ooh, yeah, well, I mean, that kind of, I'm actually exhausted now.
I feel like you've been holding back on us all this time with the Plot Corner.
Shall we, gosh, I guess it's time to talk about what happens next. Dun, dun, dun.
Next time.
Oh, man. On Set Phasers. I just realized that, again, I got too excited and did not look up the next episode names. And though I can sort of remember them, I think it would be smart not to do that. I'm going to Google it.
Brother.
All right. So this Friday, we will continue with the next 2 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 1, and hold on to your butts. The Enterprise is here, so is Captain Pike, and many people that you may or may not know of if you ever watched the original pilot episode. The first episode is called Brother, and the second episode is called New Eden. If you're watching along with us, watch those 2 episodes so you're not confused when I go completely off the rails. If you have enjoyed our program, oh wait, no, I got too excited. No, if you've enjoyed our program, then you can catch us every Friday and sometimes on Sunday in the middle of the day on Facebook Live or as a podcast every Monday, wherever podcasts come from. So please download and subscribe.
Wherever podcasts come from. I love that. It's like saying, where do babies come from? Where do podcasts come from?
I have no idea. Storks, right?
Podcast storks, yeah.
Podcast stork.
We are on Facebook, of course. That's probably where you're watching us now. At Set Phasers Podcast. And don't forget Instagram as well. We post some fun things there too. And feel free to follow along and join in the conversation of all things Trek. And Star Trek Day is coming up next week.
It is. It's so many announcements.
Excited. So we will be posting a lot to our page on Tuesday.
Yeah, and also screaming a lot alone in my apartment. If you want to support us on our continuing mission to discover what Discovery has in store for us, we'd only be delighted. You can patronize us, we can take it, by going to patreon.com/setphasers and donating to our cause.
Until next time, I'm Steph Mans.
And I am Aki Burmese, and this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer. End program.